Millionaire helps twins in snowstorm. They had a gift that changed his life. Have you ever wondered if people come into our lives by chance? William Blackwood was a man who had everything: mansions, luxury cars, a financial empire. But his heart was empty. Until one stormy night, two small figures appeared at his door. Emma and Olivia didn't know they were about to give the loneliest man in Boston the most valuable gift that exists. Get ready for a story that will make you believe in miracles. Before we dive into the story, leave us a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The howling wind pounded against the Bentley's windows as William Blackwood squinted through the windshield, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. Boston hadn't seen a storm this severe in 15 years. The normally confident financial titan felt his control slipping away with each gust that pushed against his luxury vehicle. "Almost home," he muttered to himself, a habit born from years of solitude. William's mansion appeared ahead, a dark silhouette against the swirling snow. He had purchased the isolated property specifically for its privacy, preferring the company of financial reports to that of people. The car's headlights swept across the ornate iron gates as he approached, then suddenly illuminated something that didn't belong there. Two small figures huddled against the gatepost. William hit the brakes hard, the Bentley sliding slightly before coming to a stop. He squinted through the frost-covered windshield. Children. Impossible. Not in this weather, not on his remote property. Yet as he cautiously stepped out into the cutting cold, the wind nearly knocking him over, the shapes became clearer. Two small girls, no more than 6 years old, identical in every way, their thin bodies covered by nothing more than a tattered blanket. "Good God!" William gasped, immediately removing his cashmere coat to wrap around them. "What the hell are you doing here?" The girls looked at him with identical eyes filled with fear, their lips blue from cold. Neither spoke. "Never mind that now," he said, lifting both girls at once. "Let's get inside." He carried them through the storm, up the steps to his mansion, and kicked the door with his foot until Mrs. Parker, his longtime housekeeper, answered. "Mr. Blackwood, what are you—" Her eyes widened at the sight of the two girls shivering in his arms. "My God! They were at the gate," William explained, carrying them into the warmth of the foyer. "Nearly frozen." Mrs. Parker sprang into action with remarkable efficiency. "The library fireplace is already lit. Take them there while I prepare hot chocolate and find some blankets." The twins remained silent as William gently placed them on the leather sofa closest to the roaring fire. Their identical faces, though gaunt from cold, showed an undeniable beauty that stirred something within him, a protective instinct he didn't know he possessed. "You're safe now," he said softly, unsure if they could hear him through their trembling. "I promise you that." As Mrs. Parker returned with blankets and steaming cups, William stepped back, watching as she tenderly cared for the girls. Something profound had just happened, though he couldn't name it yet. The snow continued falling outside, but inside his once empty mansion, something new had begun. In that moment, William Blackwood couldn't know that these two small abandoned girls would forever transform his solitary existence. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like it so we know you want more content like this. Morning light filtered through the heavy library curtains, casting a golden glow over the two small figures curled under thick blankets on the sofa. William Blackwood stood in the doorway, coffee cup in hand, still processing the strange turn his life had taken overnight. Mrs. Parker approached quietly, her practical shoes making no sound on the plush carpet. "They slept through the night," she whispered. "The poor things were exhausted." William nodded, unable to articulate the strange mixture of concern and curiosity that had kept him awake. "Any idea who they might be?" "None, sir. No identification found in their pockets. Only this." Mrs. Parker handed him a crumpled piece of paper. William unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was hurried, almost desperate. "Their names are Emma and Olivia Mason. You have everything now. They're your problem." A movement from the sofa caught his attention. One of the twins, impossible to tell which, had opened her eyes and was watching him warily. "Good morning," said William, attempting a gentle tone that felt strange on his tongue. "Are you Emma or Olivia?" "I'm Emma," the girl replied, her voice unexpectedly firm. She pushed her sister to wake her up. "Liv, wake up. We're still here." The second twin, Olivia, stirred slowly, blinking in confusion, before her expression settled into something more cautious than her sister's. Mrs. Parker stepped forward with a warm smile. "You must be hungry, dears. How about some breakfast?" While Mrs. Parker led them to the kitchen, William retreated to his study, calling his security team. Within minutes, they confirmed what he already suspected. Security footage showed a man carrying the girls to the door, speaking briefly with them, then driving away in a battered sedan. At breakfast, William observed the twins from the head of his massive dining table. Though identical in appearance, their personalities immediately diverged. Emma spoke confidently between bites of pancake, while Olivia observed everything with silent intensity. "Our mom died," Emma announced suddenly, answering the question William hadn't yet asked. 3 months ago. Then Derek said he couldn't keep taking care of us." Emma shuddered. "Derek?" William asked gently. "Our stepfather," Emma clarified. "He said, 'You're super rich and could give them what I can't.'" William nearly choked on his coffee. "He knows me. He works for you." "In the mailroom of one of your downtown buildings," Emma replied, matter-of-factly. "He showed us your picture in the newspaper once." The pieces fell together with horrible clarity. This Derek had abandoned his stepdaughters at the home of his wealthy employer, a man he'd never actually met. "I should call social services," William murmured, more to himself than to the girls. For the first time, Olivia spoke, her voice barely audible. "Are you going to send us away again?" The question, so simple yet devastating, hung in the air between them. William found himself unable to answer as something unexpected stirred within his carefully ordered world. William sat in his Bentley parked outside the Hope Haven community shelter, his hands still gripping the steering wheel, though the engine was off. The twins had been unusually quiet during the drive, their small faces pressed against the windows as Boston's elegant neighborhoods gave way to more modest surroundings. "This is just temporary," he had explained, the words sounding hollow even to his own ears. "Until we locate your stepfather or find another solution." The admission process had been efficient but cold. A tired-looking social worker named Miss Collins took his information, raising an eyebrow when William explained how the girls had appeared at his door. "Abandoned children are unfortunately common, Mr. Blackwood, but leaving them at a stranger's house is unusual," she commented, while typing his details into an old computer. Emma had maintained her brave facade, answering questions clearly while keeping a protective arm around Olivia, who hadn't said a word since they left the mansion. When it came time to say goodbye, William found himself unexpectedly paralyzed. He knelt awkwardly to their level, his expensive suit touching the worn linoleum. "You'll be safe here until everything gets sorted out," he promised. Emma nodded stoically. "We understand. Thank you for not leaving us in the snow." It was Olivia who broke his composure, with her silent tears and the small hand that momentarily grabbed his sleeve before letting go. Now, sitting in his car 3 hours later, William couldn't get that image out of his mind. His phone buzzed with a message from his assistant, "Urgent meeting with Tokyo investors at 4 p.m. Yet instead of starting the engine, he found himself dialing another number. "Thomas," he said when his private investigator answered, "I need everything you can find on a Derek Spencer. Works in the mailroom at Blackwood Investments. Focus on his connection to twins named Emma and Olivia Mason." The answer came faster than expected. By mid-afternoon, William was looking at a preliminary report. Derek Spencer had cleaned out his apartment 2 days ago, quit without notice, and bought a one-way bus ticket to Chicago. No other family members were listed for the twins. Their mother, Amanda Mason, had died of cancer 3 months before. The girls were truly alone. William found himself driving back to Hope Haven, arriving just as the winter sun was beginning to set. Miss Collins didn't seem surprised to see him again. "I'd like to discuss temporary custody options," he heard himself say. "You're aware this is a significant responsibility, Mr. Blackwood," she warned him, "especially for someone with no experience in childcare." William straightened his shoulders, the same posture he adopted before closing million-dollar deals. "I have a large home, considerable resources, and can provide immediate stability. Surely that counts for something." As he signed the preliminary paperwork, William wondered what had possessed him. He, who scheduled his life in 15-minute increments, was now making himself responsible for two traumatized 6-year-old girls. Yet when he went back into the common room where Emma and Olivia waited, something in their expressions, hope carefully tempered with distrust, told him this impulsive decision might be the most important one he'd ever made. "Comment what you think is going to happen with this new family. Do you think William will be a good father?" The east wing of the Blackwood mansion hadn't been used in years. Now the sound of children's footsteps echoed through its previously silent hallways, a stark contrast to the methodical rhythm of William's solitary life. "These will be your rooms," said William, opening doors to two adjacent guest suites. "We can redecorate them however you'd like." Emma immediately jumped onto the nearest four-poster bed, testing its springs, while Olivia remained in the doorway, clutching a small backpack containing her few possessions from Hope Haven. "Both rooms are just for us?" Olivia asked softly, her voice still unfamiliar to William's ears. "Of course," he replied, then hesitated. "Unless you'd prefer to share one." The twins exchanged a look that spoke volumes. Their private communication system was already evident to William. "We always share," Emma explained, suddenly serious, "since we were babies." "That can certainly be arranged," William nodded, making a mental note to convert the second room into a playroom instead. Mrs. Parker appeared with fresh towels and a remarkable understanding of children's needs that William completely lacked. "I've laid out new pajamas on the bed," she told the girls. "Tomorrow we'll get you proper clothes, but these should do for tonight." Later, after the twins had bathed and changed, William found himself facing the unfamiliar challenge of bedtime. He stood awkwardly in their doorway while Mrs. Parker tucked them in. "Good night, Mr. Blackwood," Emma called out politely. "Good night, Emma." "Good night, Olivia," he replied, turning off the main light but leaving a small lamp on, as Mrs. Parker had suggested. 3 hours later, William was reviewing quarterly projections in his study when a small sound caught his attention. Olivia stood in the doorway, tears running silently down her face. "What's wrong?" he asked, alarmed. "I had a bad dream about Mommy," she whispered. William froze, completely unprepared for this situation. Boardroom crises he could handle with ease. A crying child was terrifying territory. "Would you like to sit down?" he offered, gesturing toward the leather armchair across from his desk. To his surprise, Olivia approached, but didn't take the chair. Instead, she stood beside him, her small fingers tracing the edge of his mahogany desk. "My mommy used to say that missing someone is like having a bruise on your heart," she said quietly. "It hurts more when you touch it, but it means you haven't forgotten them." William felt something crack in his carefully constructed composure. "My parents died when I was young too," he found himself saying. "Not as young as you, but young enough that it changed everything." Olivia looked up at him, their shared grief creating an unexpected bridge between them. "Does your heart still have bruises?" she asked. William nodded, the honesty surprising him. "Some bruises never completely heal, but they do become less painful over time." When he finally walked Olivia back to her room, Emma was sitting up in bed, waiting anxiously. "She's fine," William reassured her. "Just a bad dream." As he closed their door, William realized something profound had shifted. For the first time in decades, someone had glimpsed the vulnerability behind his polished facade, and it had been a 6-year-old girl who barely reached his elbow. William woke with a start, his dream fading, but leaving him with a familiar ache. In it, he had been a child again, standing in the rain at his parents' funeral, his uncle's firm hand on his shoulder, while his cousin Jeffrey stared at him from beneath a black umbrella. He checked his watch. 4:30 a.m. The house was silent except for the distant ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Unable to return to sleep, he made his way to his private study, pausing briefly outside the twins' room. The door was slightly ajar, and he could see their identical forms, peaceful in sleep. 3 weeks had passed since the snowy night that changed everything. 3 weeks of learning that running a financial empire was somehow less challenging than understanding the needs of 2 6-year-old girls. In his study, William unlocked a rarely opened drawer and withdrew a faded photograph, himself as a child, flanked by his smiling parents. They had died in a boating accident when he was 12, leaving him in the care of his father's brother, a stern businessman who viewed emotion as weakness and affection as unnecessary. "You were thinking about them again." Mrs. Parker's voice came softly from the doorway. In 30 years of service, she had become the closest thing to family William had. "Dreams," he admitted, placing the photograph back in the drawer and thinking about the girls, their mother dying so young. Mrs. Parker nodded, setting a cup of tea beside him. "I've been reviewing some of the information your investigator found about Amanda Mason. She was quite remarkable." William had read the file. Amanda Mason had been a musical prodigy who abandoned a promising international career to raise her daughters after a brief marriage ended in divorce. Years later, she had married Derek Spencer, a decision that ultimately left her children abandoned on a stranger's doorstep. "The resemblance is striking," Mrs. Parker continued, placing a newspaper clipping on his desk. It showed a beautiful woman with the twins, then about 4 years old, after a concert. "The girls have her eyes." William studied the image. "Have you noticed Olivia humming to herself when she thinks no one is listening? I wonder if she inherited her mother's musical ability." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of small feet in the hallway. Emma appeared, hair tousled from sleep, clutching a shabby teddy bear that William hadn't seen before. "Is it morning already?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. "Not quite yet," William replied, suppressing his impulse to send her back to bed as his uncle would have done. "Why are you up so early?" Emma approached, her bear dangling from one hand. "Mr. Buttons was worried about you. He said you might be lonely in your big study." The simple statement caught William off guard. When was the last time anyone had worried about his loneliness? "That's very thoughtful of Mr. Buttons," he managed to say. "Would you and Mr. Buttons like some hot chocolate while we wait for morning?" While Mrs. Parker prepared the drink, William realized something profound. Perhaps he and these orphan children were healing each other in ways none of them fully understood. Do you identify with William? Sometimes the people we need come when we least expect them. Warm spring sunlight filtered through the newly installed window seat in the twins' bedroom. 3 months had transformed not only the east wing of the Blackwood mansion, but William's entire routine. His once perfectly scheduled life now accommodated school drop-offs, ballet lessons, and the occasional impromptu tea party with stuffed animals. "Mr. Blackwood, your 10 a.m. conference call has been rescheduled," came his assistant's voice through the intercom on his desk. "Thank you, Rebecca. Has the school nurse called back about Olivia's allergy test?" "Yes, sir. Everything is fine. And the tickets for the ballet recital have been confirmed for next Friday." William smiled to himself, remembering how Rebecca had initially been puzzled by his sudden interest in children's activities. Now she handled his parental responsibilities with the same efficiency she applied to his business empire. That afternoon, William left work early, another once unthinkable adjustment, to attend a parent-teacher conference at the prestigious Whitmore Academy, where he had enrolled the twins. Miss Winters, their teacher, greeted him warmly. "The girls are adapting remarkably well, Mr. Blackwood. Emma is a natural leader while Olivia shines in our music program. She has an extraordinary ear." Pride swelled in William's chest, surprising him with its intensity. "Their mother was a violinist with the symphony," he found himself explaining. "That explains it," Miss Winters nodded. "Has Olivia had any formal training?" William made a mental note to arrange music lessons, another item on his ever-growing list of parental duties he was still learning to navigate. Later that weekend, William surprised the twins with a sailing trip on his rarely used yacht. It was the first time he had been on the water since his parents' accident, a fact he kept to himself as they boarded the vessel. "This is like a floating mansion," Emma exclaimed, immediately exploring every corner of the deck. Olivia stayed closer to William, watching the crew prepare for departure with cautious fascination. "Have you sailed before?" she asked quietly. "Not for many years," he admitted. "Why not? Sometimes things we love can also remind us of sad memories," he explained, surprised by his own candor. Olivia considered this. "Like my violin, Mommy used to play with me, but after she got sick, I stopped." The simple parallel struck William deeply. "Maybe we should both try again, don't you think?" The day was perfect. Clear skies, gentle breeze, the twins' excitement was contagious. William found himself relaxing, explaining sailing terms, even laughing when Emma tried to give orders to his amused crew. Then came the moment that changed everything. A sudden gust caused the boat to lurch, and Emma, leaning too far over the railing, lost her balance. William moved with instinctive speed, catching her arm before she could fall. For one heart-stopping second, as he pulled her back to safety, the terror of potentially losing her overwhelmed him completely. "I've got you," he whispered, holding her trembling form against him. "You're safe." That night, as he tucked the girls in, Emma asked sleepily, "Are you going to be our new daddy?" The question hung in the air, impossibly complex, yet simple in its essence. "Would you want that?" William replied carefully. June sunshine bathed the Blackwood estate in warm light as William reviewed quarterly reports in his home office. 5 months had passed since the snowy night that brought the twins into his life, and the temporary custody arrangement had settled into something that felt increasingly permanent. A knock on his office door interrupted his concentration. Mrs. Parker stood there, her usually composed expression disturbed. "Mr. Jeffrey is here to see you, sir. He arrived unannounced." William tensed. His cousin Jeffrey, co-owner of Blackwood Investments, rarely visited the mansion, preferring the sterile atmosphere of their downtown offices. "Show him in, please." Jeffrey Blackwood entered with his characteristic arrogance, expensive Italian shoes clicking against the hardwood floor. Though cousins, they couldn't have been more different, Jeffrey's slick charisma contrasting sharply with William's reserved demeanor. "So the rumors are true," Jeffrey said instead of a greeting, looking around at the subtle changes in the office. A framed child's drawing on the wall, a small ballet slipper forgotten on a side table. William Blackwood playing daddy with a pair of strays. "They have names, Jeffrey," William replied coldly. "Emma and Olivia, and they're my legal wards." Jeffrey settled uninvited into the leather chair facing William's desk. "This is quite the midlife crisis, cousin. Most men just buy sports cars." Before William could respond, the door burst open, and Emma ran in, face flushed with excitement, a paper clutched in her hand. "Look, I got an A on my—" She stopped abruptly, noticing Jeffrey. "Emma, this is my cousin Jeffrey," said William, his tone softening. "Jeffrey, this is Emma Mason." Jeffrey's smile didn't reach his eyes as he extended his hand to the child. "Well, well, aren't you the spitting image of trouble?" Emma shook his hand politely, but moved closer to William. "Mrs. Parker said lunch is ready. Should I tell her you have a guest?" After Emma left, Jeffrey's expression hardened. "The board is concerned, William. You've missed 3 meetings in the past month. There are rumors you're leaving early, arriving late, all for these domestic arrangements." "My work hasn't suffered," William countered. "Not yet," Jeffrey leaned forward. "But children are a distraction you can't afford. The Osaka merger requires your full attention. Are you really going to risk everything we've built for 2 random children?" After Jeffrey left, William remained at his desk, disturbed. Later that evening, while helping the twins with their homework, Olivia noticed his distraction. "Did that man make you sad?" she asked perceptively. William considered evading, but opted for a version of the truth. "He reminded me of some difficult business matters." "Is it because of us?" Olivia pressed, her insight remarkable for a 6-year-old. "No, William assured her, realizing as he said it that it was completely true. It's about grown-up things that have nothing to do with you. That night, reviewing some financial documents Geoffrey had questioned, William discovered troubling discrepancies in accounts his cousin managed. The numbers simply didn't add up, suggesting either incompetence or deliberate manipulation. As he pondered this discovery, a soft knock came at his door. The twins stood there in matching pajamas, Olivia holding a leather album. "We found this in the library," Emma explained. "It has pictures of you when you were little." As they settled beside him on the sofa, opening the forgotten family album, William realized Geoffrey's visit had accomplished something. It had made clear which parts of his life really mattered now. "Maybe," Emma murmured, already drifting towards sleep, "you're pretty good at catching. This story is really exciting me. You too. Give it a like if you want to know what happens next." The summer morning dawned bright and clear as William moved silently through the mansion making final preparations. Today was special. The twins' 7th birthday, their first since coming to live with him. He wanted everything to be perfect. "The garden decorations are all set up, sir," Mrs. Parker reported, "and the cake has been delivered exactly as you specified." William nodded, examining the small pile of carefully wrapped gifts on his desk. He had agonized over the presents, wanting them to be meaningful rather than simply expensive. For Emma, a leather journal with her initials embossed in gold. For Olivia, a beginner's violin that he'd had specially made by a master luthier in Vienna. But there was one more gift, a smaller box than the others, containing twin silver lockets. By afternoon, the celebration was in full swing. William had kept it intimate, just a few school friends of the girls, their favorite teacher, Miss Winters, and Charlotte, a kind neighbor who had helped with childcare when William had unavoidable business commitments. "You've created something wonderful here," Charlotte commented, watching the twins laughing as they played a garden game. "It's amazing how much they've flourished in just a few months." William felt a surge of pride that still surprised him with its intensity. "They're remarkable girls. I'm just trying to give them stability." "You're giving them much more than that," Charlotte replied. "You're giving them a home." When it came time for gifts, William watched nervously as the twins opened their presents from friends. Books, art supplies, a science kit that immediately captured Emma's attention. Finally, it was time for his own offerings. Emma gasped when she opened the journal, running her fingers reverently over the embossed leather. "It's just like the one in my favorite story." Olivia unwrapped her violin with trembling hands, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful," she whispered, carefully touching the polished wood. "It was your mother's instrument," William explained softly. "Not this exact one, of course, but the same type. Mrs. Parker helped me research it." For a moment, Olivia looked as if she might cry. Then, surprising everyone, she threw her arms around William's neck. "Thank you," she whispered against his shoulder. Later, when the party was over and the last guest had gone, William presented the twins with the final gift. Inside the small box, 2 silver lockets gleamed in the late afternoon light. "These are special," he explained, kneeling to their level. "Open them." Inside each locket was a tiny photograph of Amanda Mason smiling radiantly. On the opposite side, an engraving. On Emma's, "As brave as your mother." On Olivia's, "With your mother's heart." The twins stared at the lockets in silence, then looked at each other, their identical eyes filling with tears. "You remembered her," Emma finally said, her voice barely audible. "Of course," William replied. "She'll always be part of who you are." It was then that Emma did something unprecedented. She called him Uncle Will for the first time, the childish nickname flowing naturally from her lips as she hugged him tight. That night, as William passed by the twins' room, he heard them whispering. "Do you think we could stay forever?" Olivia asked softly. "I hope so," Emma replied. "I think he needs us too." William stood still in the hallway, realizing with sudden clarity that she was absolutely right. "Do you feel the connection that's forming? This family is becoming more and more real." "See." A gentle autumn breeze stirred the crimson leaves on the maple trees that lined the Blackwood estate entrance. William sat at his desk in the home office he had converted from a rarely used parlor. Its location offered a clear view of the garden where the twins played after school. 1 year, it had been a full year since that snowy night when two small figures appeared at his door. The temporary custody papers had been replaced by more permanent legal arrangements, and the Blackwood mansion had transformed from a sterile showpiece into a genuine home. William smiled as he watched Emma running around the garden, clipboard in hand, organizing a fantasy corporate meeting with her stuffed animals. Her natural leadership skills amused him. She had even begun sitting in on some of his weekend business calls, listening intently before bombarding him with surprisingly insightful questions. Olivia sat beneath the old oak tree, drawing in her sketchbook while occasionally plucking the strings of her violin beside her. Her music lessons had quickly revealed Amanda's talent flowing through her daughter's veins. William had hired Boston's finest instructor, who declared Olivia a prodigy after only 3 sessions. His phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. "Morgan, financial proposal needs review before 5 p.m. William sighed and turned to his laptop. These days he worked primarily from home, keeping regular office hours while being present for the twins. The arrangement had initially raised eyebrows, but productivity had actually increased, a fact that silenced most critics. Most, but not all. Jeffrey continued to voice disapproval at every board meeting, questioning William's commitment and suggesting the company needed undivided leadership. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Mrs. Parker entered with a concerned expression. "The school called, sir. There's a parent-teacher conference they'd like you to attend tomorrow at 3. "Is everything all right?" William asked, immediately worried. "Apparently there was an incident in the music room. Olivia became upset when another child mishandled some instruments." William nodded, already rearranging his mental schedule. "I'll be there." The following afternoon, William sat in a child-sized chair facing Miss Winters, feeling strangely nervous. He had negotiated billion-dollar deals with less anxiety. "Please understand, Mr. Blackwood, Olivia isn't in trouble," Miss Winters began, "but I wanted to discuss something important. When the other student damaged the violin, Olivia became extremely upset, more than the situation warranted. She's very particular about musical instruments," William explained. "Yes, but it was her explanation that caught my attention. She told the boy he couldn't understand what it meant to lose something precious. When I spoke with her privately, she mentioned her mother's violin." William's chest tightened. "Her mother was a professional violinist before she passed away." Miss Winters nodded understandingly. "That's what I suspected. The other teacher referred to you as Olivia's father, and she became quite insistent that you weren't her real father. Just her," she consulted her notes, "person who keeps us safe." The phrase simultaneously warmed and hurt William's heart. "The girls have been through significant trauma," he said carefully. "We're still finding our way." On the drive home, William reflected on Miss Winters' observations. The twins had integrated seamlessly into his life, but there remained a careful distance, a tacit acknowledgement that their arrangement, however comfortable, wasn't exactly family. The crisp November air carried the scent of wood smoke as William's Bentley pulled into the circular driveway. After 15 months of sharing their lives, he had made a decision that both excited and terrified him. Today, he would show the twins the plans for the mansion renovation, a project he had been secretly planning for weeks. Over dinner, Mrs. Parker's famous pot roast, a favorite of both girls. William cleared his throat nervously. "I have something important to discuss with you both," he began, setting down his fork. Emma immediately straightened, her expression serious. "Is it about Mr. Jeffrey's call this morning? I heard Mrs. Parker say he sounded angry." William smiled despite himself. Nothing escaped Emma's attention. "No, it's not about Jeffrey. It's about our home, this house." Olivia's eyes widened in alarm. "Are we moving?" "Not exactly," William replied, reaching for the rolled plans beside his chair. "But I'm considering some changes." He spread the architectural drawings across the cleared table. The twins leaned forward, identical expressions of curiosity on their faces. "These are the plans for renovating the West Wing," William explained, pointing to the detailed blueprint. "It's been empty since before I bought the property." Emma studied the drawings intently. "Those look like bedrooms." "They are," William confirmed. 3 new bedrooms, each with its own bathroom and sitting area, one for each of us. A moment of silence followed as the twins processed his words. "But we share a room," Olivia said quietly. William nodded. "You always have, I know. But I thought maybe, as you're growing up, you might each want your own space designed exactly how you want it." To William's surprise, Emma looked directly at him and asked, "Why are you doing this? Is it because we're staying longer?" The simplicity of her question belied its profound implications. William chose his next words carefully. "I hope you'll stay as long as you want to," he said. "This is your home now. And I thought you deserved rooms that truly belonged to you, not guest rooms you happen to occupy." Olivia tilted her head, studying him with that perceptive look that always made William feel transparent. "Forever? Even when we're grown up?" "Especially then," William replied, his voice steadier than he'd expected. The twins exchanged one of their silent communications, a language of subtle glances that William had learned to recognize but never fully decipher. Finally, Emma pointed to the largest bedroom on the plan. "If this one is yours, and that one would be mine, then Olivia should have the corner room because the light is better for her paintings." Relief flowed through William. He hadn't realized how much their approval meant until that moment. "There's one more thing," he added, turning to the final page of the plans. "This room between your 2 bedrooms. I thought it could be a music room with space for Olivia to practice violin and maybe a piano." Olivia's eyes lit up, but she hesitated. "Could I have pictures of Mommy so she can listen when I play?" "Of course," William replied, his throat tightening unexpectedly. "Your mother will always have a place in this house." As they continued discussing colors and furniture, William realized this renovation wasn't just about rooms. It was about building a future together, one they were all finally ready to imagine. Doesn't it seem beautiful how this family is being built? Comment what you think of William's decision. The West Wing renovation progressed rapidly through the winter months. William had hired Boston's finest contractors, and the sound of construction became a familiar backdrop to their daily life. The twins visited the site every afternoon after school, watching excitedly as their personalized spaces took shape. Olivia's corner room now featured a bay window overlooking the garden, with custom-built shelves for her growing collection of sheet music. Emma's room included a miniature desk modeled after William's, where she could work on important matters. The music room between them housed a gleaming baby grand piano and a special display case for Olivia's violin when not in use. One snowy February afternoon, William sat in a meeting with his lawyers, finalizing the paperwork that would make his custody of the twins permanent, the first step toward eventual adoption. "Everything appears to be in order, Mr. Blackwood," said his attorney, sliding the documents across the desk. "Once these are filed, the court date should be scheduled within 6 weeks." As William reached for his pen, his office door burst open. Jeffrey entered without announcement, his face flushed from cold or anger, possibly both. "William, we need to talk. Now." He looked dismissively at the lawyer. Alone. After the lawyer left, Jeffrey threw a manila folder onto William's desk. "Explain this." Inside were surveillance photos of William with the twins at their school's winter concert, at a restaurant, furniture shopping. The images were clearly taken from a distance without his knowledge. "Are you having me followed?" William asked, anger rising in his throat. "The board is concerned about your priorities," Jeffrey replied coldly. "You've missed 3 important investor meetings in the past month. I sent Roberts in my place. He's more than capable." "It's not about capability," Jeffrey interrupted. "It's about commitment. These children have become a liability to the company." William stiffened. "The girls are not up for discussion, Jeffrey." "They certainly are when you plan to make them Blackwoods," Jeffrey tapped the legal documents on the desk. "I have sources everywhere, cousin. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" William stood slowly. "I don't need your approval to build my family." "Family?" Jeffrey laughed harshly. "These aren't your children, William. They're charity cases you picked up like stray puppies. And now I hear their biological father has resurfaced." The room seemed to tilt beneath William's feet. "What are you talking about?" Jeffrey's smile was cold. "Derek Spencer is back in Boston. Apparently he's had a change of heart about abandoning his stepdaughters. My sources tell me he's preparing a custody petition." After Jeffrey left, William sat motionless, his mind racing. Could Derek really return after all this time? The twins had finally found stability. They were thriving in school, making friends, healing from their mother's loss. The thought of disrupting their lives again was unbearable. That night, as the twins excitedly showed him paint samples they had chosen for their new rooms, William struggled to maintain his composure. When they finally went to bed, he made a call to Thomas, his investigator. "I need everything on Derek Spencer's recent activities," he said quietly. "And I mean everything." The answer came at dawn. Derek had returned to Boston 3 weeks ago. He had rented an apartment, found steady employment, and begun attending parenting classes at a community center. All the actions of a man preparing to reclaim his parental rights, or the carefully orchestrated moves of someone being coached on how to appear reformed. The downtown Boston courthouse loomed gray and imposing against the spring sky. William straightened his tie as he entered, flanked by his legal team, the finest custody attorneys in Massachusetts. Today marked the first hearing in what promised to be a lengthy battle for the twins. "Remember," his lead attorney whispered, "stay calm no matter what. Judge Harrington values composure above all." William nodded, his expression neutral despite the storm of emotions beneath. He had not told the twins about Derek's custody petition, not wanting to disrupt their lives until it was absolutely necessary. Mrs. Parker had taken them to school that morning with a fabricated explanation for his absence. Inside the courtroom, William immediately spotted Derek Spencer sitting across the aisle, thinner than in the photographs, wearing a suit that looked new but ill-fitting. Beside him sat a lawyer William didn't recognize, shuffling papers with practiced efficiency. When Derek looked up, their eyes met briefly. William expected to see malice or greed, but instead caught something more complex: uncertainty, perhaps even shame. Judge Harrington entered, and the preliminary hearing began. William listened as Derek's attorney presented his client's case. A man who had made terrible mistakes while grieving, who had sought counseling, secured stable employment, and now wished to reunite with his stepdaughters. "Mr. Spencer has completed 6 weeks of parenting classes," the attorney declared. "He has prepared a suitable 2-bedroom apartment and established contact with the girls' former school." When William's attorney rose to speak, he methodically outlined the abandonment, the 18 months of stability the twins had found with William, their academic and emotional progress, and the trauma another upheaval would cause. "The evidence will show," he concluded, "that Mr. Blackwood has become the only consistent parental figure in these girls' lives." Outside the courthouse afterward, William's attorney looked grim. "It's not going to be straightforward," he admitted. "Spencer has rehabilitated his image remarkably well. The law tends to favor biological connections, even for step-parents with prior custody." That evening, William sat with the twins in their nearly completed music room, listening as Olivia practiced a new piece on her violin. The sweet, melancholy notes filled the space, and William felt a crushing weight in his chest at the thought of losing moments like these. "You look sad," Emma observed, her insight as sharp as ever. William considered evading, but chose honesty. "I'm dealing with some difficult business matters." "Is it about us?" Olivia asked suddenly, lowering her violin. "Mrs. Parker was acting strange this morning, and you missed our science presentation." William set aside the legal briefs he had been reviewing. "Yes," he admitted, "it is about you, but it's complicated, and I was hoping to have more answers before we discussed it." The twins exchanged a look. their silent communication system at work. "Is someone trying to take us away?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. The directness of her question stole William's breath. These remarkable children had already endured so much loss. They could sense when their security was threatened. "I promise you both," William said, choosing his words carefully, "I will do everything in my power to keep you safe and keep us together. This is your home and I," his voice cracked unexpectedly, "love you both very much." It was the first time he had spoken those words aloud, though he had felt them growing for months. Olivia set down her violin and moved to sit beside him. Without speaking, she placed her small hand in his. On his other side, Emma did the same. "We know," Emma said simply. "This is getting very emotional. Do you feel this family's connection? Give it a like if you want William to win this battle." William's footsteps echoed down the corridor of Blackwood Investments headquarters as he headed toward the conference room. The custody battle had dragged on for 3 exhausting months, each hearing more draining than the last. Derek Spencer had presented himself as a reformed man, claiming genuine remorse for his past actions and a sincere desire to reconnect with his stepdaughters. Today, William had been summoned to an emergency board meeting called by Jeffrey. The timing couldn't have been worse. He had to be in court tomorrow for what might be the final custody hearing. As William pushed through the conference room doors, the conversation inside stopped abruptly. 8 board members sat around the massive mahogany table, with Jeffrey standing at the head mid-presentation. "Ah, William, good of you to join us," Jeffrey said, his voice dripping false cordiality. "I was just explaining to the board why our CEO's domestic situation has become untenable for our investors." William took his seat without responding. On the projection screen behind Jeffrey was a newspaper article about the custody case, alongside a chart showing a slight dip in Blackwood's stock prices. "The uncertainty surrounding your household has created nervousness in the market," Jeffrey continued. "Some major investors are questioning your focus and commitment." "My work performance has been exemplary," William replied evenly. "The Nakamura acquisition alone increased our holdings by 17% last quarter." "That's not the point," Jeffrey countered. "This public spectacle with the custody battle, my family is not up for discussion," William interrupted, his voice steel. Jeffrey's expression hardened. "When it affects our bottom line, it absolutely is. Spencer's attorney has been giving interviews, suggesting you used your wealth to essentially buy these children." William managed to maintain his composure through the rest of the meeting, but afterward he remained alone in the conference room, disturbed by Jeffrey's unusual level of knowledge about the case. How had he known details that weren't part of the public record? His phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "Urgent! Found something! Meet me at Riverside Cafe in 30. The investigator was already waiting when William arrived, a thick folder on the table between them. "You were right to be suspicious," Thomas said without preamble, sliding several photographs across the table. "Spencer didn't suddenly develop paternal instincts." The images showed Derek meeting with Jeffrey at a restaurant in a park outside a lawyer's office. In one photo, Jeffrey appeared to be handing Derek an envelope. "There's more," Thomas continued, producing bank records. "Spencer has received 4 payments of $25,000 each since he returned to Boston. The source is a shell company that traces back to your cousin." William felt cold fury building inside him. "Jeffrey is paying him to fight for custody." "Not just paying him," Thomas corrected. "Training him. That parenting class certificate, the apartment lease, the steady job, all arranged by Jeffrey. He's orchestrated Spencer's entire reformation." "But why?" William asked, though the answer was forming in his mind as he spoke. "Your current will leave controlling interest in Blackwood Investments to the twins upon your death," Thomas explained. "That information became public record when you applied for permanent custody. Jeffrey stands to lose his position if you legally adopt them." William's mind raced. Jeffrey wasn't just trying to distract him with the custody battle. He was attempting to remove the twins from his life entirely, eliminating them as potential heirs. "What are you going to do with this information?" Thomas asked. "First, I'm going to protect my daughters," William replied. The word daughters felt completely natural now. "Then I'm going to deal with my cousin." That night, William returned to the mansion to find the construction crew putting finishing touches on the renovated West Wing. The twins were helping Mrs. Parker prepare dinner, flour dusting their cheeks as they attempted to make homemade pasta. Watching them, William felt a fierce protectiveness, unlike anything he had ever experienced in his business career. These children had transformed his empty house into a home filled with laughter and purpose. Jeffrey had underestimated how far William would go to protect his newfound family. With renewed determination, William made 2 phone calls. First to his attorney to prepare an ambush for tomorrow's hearing, then to the head of his security team. By morning, Jeffrey would discover just how deeply he had miscalculated. The cemetery lay silent under a gentle spring rain. William stood solemnly behind the twins, watching as they placed fresh flowers on their mother's grave. 2 years had passed since the night Amanda Mason's daughters appeared at his door, changing his life forever. The polished granite headstone gleamed in the misty morning light. Amanda Rose Mason, beloved mother, gifted musician, beautiful soul. William had commissioned it himself after discovering that financial constraints had forced Derek to choose the simplest marker available. "Mommy loved the rain," Olivia said softly, adjusting the bouquet of white lilies they had brought. "She said it made the world feel clean again." Emma nodded, her hand resting protectively on her sister's shoulder. At 8 years old, they still looked remarkably identical to strangers, but William could now distinguish 1,000 subtle differences. Emma's more determined stride, Olivia's thoughtful pauses, the different ways they tilted their heads when listening. "I wish she could see us now," Emma said, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. "I think she'd be happy." William remained at a respectful distance behind them, giving the girls this moment with their mother. Last week had been a whirlwind of legal proceedings, culminating in yesterday's dramatic courtroom revelation. Derek Spencer had crumbled under cross-examination when presented with evidence of Jeffrey's payments. In a moment of unexpected honesty, he had admitted to the entire scheme, how Jeffrey had tracked him down in Chicago, offered him substantial money to fight for custody, and coached him on how to appear reformed. "I never even wanted the girls back," Derek had confessed on the stand, tears streaming down his weathered face. "They deserve better than me. I just needed the money." The judge immediately dismissed Spencer's petition and ordered an investigation into Jeffrey's actions. By evening, the news had reached the Blackwood Investments Board, who called an emergency session that William suspected would end with his cousin's removal. But none of that mattered compared to the moment when the judge had looked directly at the twins and spoken the words William had been waiting to hear. "You girls will remain with Mr. Blackwood, who has proven himself to be a devoted guardian." Now, standing in the peaceful cemetery, William watched as Olivia placed a small envelope beside the flowers. "What's that?" he asked gently when she returned to his side. "A letter to Mommy," Olivia explained. "I told her about my violin recital in my new room. And about you." William felt a tightness in his chest. "What did you tell her about me?" Emma answered for her, her practical nature always direct. "That you take care of us now, that you're not trying to replace her like you promised, and that we're happy." The simplicity of her statement nearly undid him. After months of legal battles and corporate machinations, this quiet moment of acceptance meant more than any courtroom victory. As they walked back toward the car where Mrs. Parker waited, William's phone buzzed with a message from his attorney. "Adoption paperwork ready to file. Can proceed as early as next week." William slid the phone back into his pocket without responding. That news could wait. Today wasn't about legal definitions or paperwork. It was about honoring the remarkable woman who had brought these extraordinary children into the world and acknowledging the journey that had brought them into his life. "Will?" Emma rarely used the shortened version of his name, making it meaningful when she did. "What happens to Derek now? And your cousin?" William considered how much to share with an 8-year-old, even one as perceptive as Emma. Jeffrey will probably lose his position at the company. As for Derek, he paused. He made bad choices, but he also told the truth in the end. The judge will decide what consequences he faces. Olivia looked up at him with those inquisitive eyes that seemed to see right through any pretense. "Are you angry at them?" William thought carefully before responding. "I was very angry, yes, but mostly I'm grateful." "Grateful?" both girls asked in unison, their synchronicity still occasionally emerging. "If Derek hadn't brought you to my door that night, if Jeffrey hadn't revealed his true character through this scheme, I might never have discovered what really matters." He placed a gentle hand on each of their shoulders. Sometimes other people's worst decisions lead us exactly where we need to be. As they reached the car, the rain began to lighten, and a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the path ahead, much like the future that now stretched before them, finally clear and certain. This transformation is truly beautiful. Don't you think it's incredible how love can heal? A gentle snow fell over Boston, covering the Blackwood estate with a pristine white blanket. Exactly 3 years since that fateful night, William stood at the large bay window of his study, watching the flakes drift in the fading afternoon light. The symmetry wasn't lost on him. Another snowstorm, but everything else transformed. Today wasn't an ordinary day. After months of paperwork, interviews and hearings, the adoption would finally be official. In just a few hours, Emma and Olivia would legally become Blackwoods. "The car is ready when you are, sir," Mrs. Parker announced from the doorway, her usual formality softened by the emotion in her eyes. "The girls are almost dressed." William nodded, straightening his tie. "Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Not just for today, but for everything these 3 years. I couldn't have done it without you." The housekeeper, normally so reserved, blinked back tears. "It has been my privilege to watch this family form, sir. Truly family." The word family still occasionally caught William by surprise, though now it felt as natural as breathing. He made his way to the newly renovated West Wing, where excited voices drifted from the twins' rooms. The hallway walls, once bare, were now lined with photographs. The girls in their school play, sailing on the lake, building a snowman with William last winter. A visual story of their journey together. The music room door was open. Inside, displayed prominently on the wall, hung a portrait of Amanda Mason holding her violin, her gentle smile watching over the baby grand piano where Olivia practiced daily. William had commissioned the painting from a photograph, wanting the girls to always feel their mother's presence. "Are we late?" Emma's voice came from behind him. She stood in her doorway wearing a deep blue dress that matched her eyes, her hair styled in an elegant braid that Mrs. Parker had clearly helped with. "Right on time," William assured her. "You look beautiful." Olivia appeared next, in an identical dress, but with her hair styled differently. One of the many ways they now chose to express their individuality. "Is it really happening today?" Olivia asked, her voice betraying a touch of lingering disbelief. William knelt to their level, a habit he had developed early in their relationship. "Yes, it's really happening. But I want you both to understand something important." The twins looked at him expectantly, their expressions serious. "The judge will make it official today, but you became my daughters long ago. The moment I realized I couldn't imagine my life without you." Emma, always practical, had a question. "When people ask about our family, what should we say about our mommy and everything?" William had anticipated this. "We tell the truth, that you had a wonderful mother who loved you very much, that through circumstances none of us planned, we found each other and became a family, different from some, but no less real." Dying at the downtown courthouse, the formal proceedings passed in a blur of legal terminology and signatures. Judge Harrington, who had overseen the custody case, presided with a warmth that contradicted the institutional atmosphere. "Having reviewed all pertinent documentation," he finally announced, "I am pleased to approve this adoption. Emma and Olivia Mason are hereafter legally Emma and Olivia Blackwood." The small audience, Mrs. Parker, William's attorney, the twins' favorite teacher, Miss Winters, and a few close friends burst into applause. Outside, snow continued to fall as they exited the courthouse. The twins ran ahead down the steps, spinning with their faces turned up to catch snowflakes on their tongues, their identical blue dresses swirling around them. "Daddy, come on," Emma called. The word "daddy" now flowing naturally from both girls' lips after months of tentative testing. As William joined them, Olivia slipped her hand into his. "Mommy would be happy today," she said softly. "I think she would be," William agreed. Back at the mansion, a celebration awaited them. Not the lavish corporate events William once hosted, but a warm gathering with homemade cake, slightly lopsided since the twins had insisted on baking it themselves, and carefully chosen gifts. Later that evening, after their guests had gone, William found himself standing once again at the window where he had watched the snowfall that morning. The storm had intensified, much like the night when two small figures had appeared at his door. He sensed a presence beside him and turned to find both girls in their pajamas, ready for bed, but clearly not ready for this momentous day to end. "It looks just like that night," Emma observed, watching the swirling snow. "The first night. When we found you," Olivia added. William smiled at their phrasing, not when he had found them, but when they had found him. Perhaps that was the truer version of the story. "I have something for you both," he said, retrieving two small boxes from his desk drawer, a tradition in the Blackwood family for generations. Inside each box was a delicate gold signet ring bearing the Blackwood family crest, sized for their small fingers but designed to be worn on chains around their necks until they grew older. "These belong to my mother," William explained. "She always said they should be passed down to the daughters in the family." As the twins admired their rings, Emma looked up suddenly. "Did you know we would stay that first night when you found us in the snow?" William considered the question thoughtfully. "No," he answered honestly. "I didn't know then, but I think sometimes the most important things in life aren't planned. They find us when we need them most." Olivia slipped her hand into his, as she had done that day at the cemetery. "We're glad we found you, Daddy." "And I'm glad you found me," William replied, his heart fuller than he had ever imagined possible. "Now it's getting late. Tomorrow is our first official day as the Blackwood family." As he tucked them into their beds, separate rooms now, but with a connecting door they still left open, William realized the circle was complete. The journey that began on a snowy night had brought them here to another snowy night, but this time with certainty and belonging where once there had been only questions and fear. The storm outside might rage, but within these walls, three hearts that had once been lost and separate now beat as family, different from what any of them had imagined, but perfectly and wonderfully their own. And so ends this beautiful story of love, family, and second chances. What did you think of this ending? Leave us a comment with your favorite part, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that touch the heart like this one. End of story. If this story moved you as much as it moved us, give it a like and share it with someone who needs to believe in life's miracles. See you in the next story. Did you love this emotional story? If it touched your heart like it touched mine, give it a strong like. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that will move you. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any. In the comments, tell me, do you believe love transcends death? Have you had any unexplainable experiences with loved ones who have passed? I want to know your stories. And don't forget to share this video with that special person who needs to believe in miracles and second chances. Until the next story, a hug from the heart.